as I was seated outside, I could hear my mom just wailing in the hospital. And for me, anytime I'd thought about my dad's death in the past, I'd always picture myself wailing uncontrollably, just being not in control of anything, or just be anywhere, just being dragged along, just going round and round and round. But this was so different. I think it hadn't sunk in, so it didn't make sense. It didn't look like it was real. But I would call someone and just tell them, by the way, my father is dead. And I think people are wondering, so is this one serious? Because I would just plainly break that news, just like that. And I remember one person called back and asked me, what did you just say? And I told her, and I told him, yes, I told you your friend is dead, because it was my dad's friend. And I told him, your friend is dead, and that is true. And then he asked me, so how did you confirm he's dead? And I told him I'm at the hospital, because I knew he was at the hospital. I told him I'm at the hospital, and the doctor has confirmed, and he's called in another doctor, and they have confirmed that my father is dead. And at this point, I think they're wondering, so why are you so detached from this whole thing? And it's something I couldn't explain. So I went inside the hospital, asked where my mom was, to just go check on her. And then I went in a second time to just go get the car keys, because I just wanted to be in a space alone. And I went into the car, and I felt something very strange. I felt like a hand just, see, like the way you spray doom over a surface, or perfume over a surface. I felt just a hand put like a covering on my heart, just round and round and round. And then it's when now I began having that conversation with God. And the first thing I said, I will serve you still. I think it's at that point that it began to sink that my dad was no more. Because that is the time now I began having that conversation with God. And yeah, I will serve you still. I will not ask you why at this point. I will serve you still. The only person who I had a challenge with telling, I told everyone else that my father was dead except my brother, because I didn't want to be the bearer of those bad news to him. So I called a cousin of mine and I told him, our dad is dead, and I know my brother doesn't know. You just find a way that you're going to let him know that our father is dead. And just previously, my brother had sent me a message. I think he had sent images on WhatsApp or something, and he'd told me, show these pictures to mom and to dad. I think it was photos of his son. And my father died at around 30. So when he sent in those messages after, because we had already received the news, I remember just thinking to myself, I wish you knew. I just wish you knew that dad is already dead, that we'll never have the opportunity to show him these photos, that we'll never have the opportunity to have any other conversation with him, because he's basically just dead. And the day passed, and my brother traveled from Nairobi to home. And the most weird thing about that night is that my brother's son couldn't sleep. He cried for like a consecutive 3 hours. He was inconsolable, and he had such an attachment with his grandfather that we didn't know about. We previously didn't think was making sense, but for a whole 3 hours, he was just crying and crying and crying, and no one could console him, not even his mom or anyone. He was crying like someone who could understand exactly what was happening. And then the following day, we woke up to a just normal day, and we had people all over in the compound, and just coming to find out what is it that we want to do, others coming to confirm the news. And then we received a strange call. Someone called and said that we need to rush to a place called Kagio, because my father's business was being vandalized. There was someone who had parked a car outside, and they were carrying in everything that was in my dad's business. And the author of all this was my dad's second wife. And again, people had to rush to the scene, try and salvage the things, and get into issues with police cases and finding lawyers and everything. And it just became a mess. And even at this point, it still didn't make sense. I hadn't even just taken some time to cry and just figure out and process the emotions and everything. I was just okay. And then on Saturday, we traveled to my dad's rural home to just go and have a conversation around where are we going to bury him, when are we going to bury him. It's like things just began flowing, and I expected things to come to a standstill, and I expected the world to stop because my father was no more. But things were moving on so swiftly. So we are here just 2 days later, and we are planning for his burial. 2 days later, we are discussing about the budget and everything. And I couldn't understand why people were acting so strong and things were moving so swiftly. I thought that the world would stop for a minute, but it didn't. And it was there when we were having that family meeting that I got to realize that we were now alone, because we had weird conversations from family members, from some saying that you guys need to figure out where the money is going to come from, because after all, you guys are from Nairobi, you should figure things out, you should have things working out for you. We'll not even cook for you, because you should come with outside caterers. We're not going to buy clothes for you, but you need to buy clothes for us. And it was weird, just weird. And it looked weird how the death of someone who is close to you, someone is close to you as a brother, could mean that, could be a cash cow for you, could be a place for you to make money, as opposed to you taking time to grieve and you like being considerate of the family. So it was the first point that we actually got to know that we were by ourselves in this. And I remember the travel to Nairobi, back to Nairobi on that Saturday, and just went to church and had people in church pray for me. And I think it's the first time, that Sunday is the first time that I actually cried, because I had lost my dad. And what brought me to tears is I was writing the tribute that I was supposed to hand over, so that would be part of the eulogy. And I was also expected to take out photos that my dad and I had taken in high school and during my graduation, for them to be used in the eulogy. And I think for me that's what was the first thing that brought to the realization that my father was dead. And my brother was asking, so is there any place that we can go and have a promissory note where we'll request them to give us the money so that we can bury our dad? And then after that, then we're going to pay back after the burial is over. And I remember listening to both of them and realizing that emotions were running so high and things were not working out so well. And just saying that I know the God that I serve. I don't know where the strength came from, but I just told them, I know the God that I serve. I have been faithful in serving God. And I believe that he will not let us down even in this. And I told them that we will bury dad without a debt. Where the money is going to come from, I don't know. But I am convinced that we are going to bury him without any debt. And I said that, and everyone went silent, and we got home. And it's the first time that evening I disappeared from home for about 2 hours. Just walked away and went into a place, just somebody's shamba, like 2 kilometers from home. Just sat in a shamba and I cried my heart out. It's for the first time that I actually mourned my dad without any interruptions, because my phone was off and I was unreachable, and I was in a place where no one knew me, and I was in a place where there was no one around. And I just sat down and cried and cried and cried until I couldn't cry anymore. I remember just having that conversation with God and telling him, by the way, I didn't stop you from taking away my dad. And the only thing I want to do right now is to mourn him. So I will not stress about money. It is not in my business to stress about money. My business right now is to mourn my dad. And ujue, wewe ndio utajiaibisha, sababu si mimi nimesema tutamzika bila deni. Wewe ndio utajiaibisha. Me, I'm not struggling about these things. And the journey beyond the burial, I think that was the difficult one. Because after the burial, everyone assumes that we are done with these things. So everybody just walks away and everybody just disappears, and you're just by yourself. And it's when now reality sinks home that this was your family. Hao watu wengine walikuwa wamekuja kuwasaidia, but huyu nyinyi ndio mmekufia wengine, au wengine ilikuwa maybe a societal duty or something, or because they're just your friends, and everybody just walks away and you are alone. And then I sank into a season of depression, a space where even just waking out, just stepping out of bed was huge, was major. Like I couldn't step out of bed. And I fell out with God. And I fell out with God, a major one, because I felt that any God unipendi. Like you knew how much I loved my dad. Like you knew how much I adored my dad. So why would you take him away? And even if you had to take him away, why didn't you tell me? Like I was so bitter with God. And then just before I got to terms with the reality, I had to cut my hair. And my hair was the thing that I loved most about myself, was my hair. And when I took those scissors and cut my hair, I wept as much as I wept the day I lost my dad. Because my dad provided a sense of identity. My hair provided yet another sense of identity. But I was stripped away of both, in circumstances where I didn't have a choice. In the very moment of my pain, in the very moment when I didn't want anything to do with church, it's been the season where I've had the largest number of opportunities to speak and preach God's word. And God had promised me like something very specific on my birthday. And I would remember just counting down and telling God, by the way, ukona one way of just redeeming yourself. Ukifulfill promise uliniambia ya before my next birthday, by then nitaanza kuona wewe ni mfaithful. Lakini kama hujafanya hivyo, like sioni kama wewe ni mfaithful. Like I don't believe you're faithful. And then I'd get applied for jobs and went to interviews, and I'll get rejected in all of them. Like if there's a year that I have had to face every single fear I have had, it's been 2018. And looking back, I realized that each and every one of us has a strength within themselves to survive anything. It's not a strength that you would see with your own eyes, but it's a strength that needs a situation for you to go through a situation for it to be unearthed. And if I will not get out of this season for anything else, it's for the many girls that are looking up to me, for the many girls that are waiting upon this testimony for them to be healed, for the many girls whose destiny is tied to mine, for the many people who are going through similar situations and they haven't found the strength within themselves to go through this, for the many people who've had even more difficult years, even more difficult challenges than I have had to go through, and they are looking for just one reason to survive. And for me, the only reason I survived is because God allowed me to. Not because I wanted to, because I clearly didn't have a reason to live. 2018 will go down as the most difficult year, but the year when I have discovered that I have been the strongest. It will be the year that I will look back and not just remember my father died, but I will look back and remember that I survived the season. It's the year that I will look back and remember that I have learned and have had a relationship with God that has been so personal, that has been so real, that has been so intimate. I remember that it's been the year where I have worshipped God, not because I have been to a church service, but because I mean it from the depth of my heart. Because the fire has come and passed. And even when, during all this season, like, you pray and the things that God tells you, it's not the things that you want to hear. I love you. He doesn't tell you that. He tells you, by the way, when you go through the fire, I will be with you. It's not that you're coming out of the fire. It's that I will be with you. And I've looked back and I have seen just how much He has held my hand. Just how much He's been a dad. Just how much He's given me strength. Just how much He's brought people that just needed me to be in that space, that He's brought so much vulnerability out, that He's brought me into a space where I can actually talk about death, like I can actually just support someone because I was supported, because I have understood what it means to lose. And before this, I'd never understand people. I'd never be empathetic about people who've lost loved ones. But now I am more empathetic. I am stronger. I think I am more open to hearing people out. I am more responsive to the needs of people. And I look back and I'm grateful that I went through this season. As difficult it has been, I'm grateful that I went through it. And whatever else comes my way, I know that I will have the strength to go through it.